Today we're opening the Sprunki.
Shut the fuck up! For the past few weeks, I've been seeing a bunch of material surrounding this one project called Sprunki. At first I was confused to exactly what it was. Was it some new internet cartoon like Battle for Dream Island? Is it a game? Some sort of ARG? And after looking into it further, not only have I fallen in love with the characters, but I've also uncovered the sad and sadistic truth that came along with this game's fandom, and some of the worst people on YouTube. Kids gaming channels. But for those who still don't know, you're probably asking, what is Sprunki? It's time for some uncomfortable conversations. Now the basics. Sprunki is a Incredibox mod originally uploaded to Scratch on August 26th, but was taken down and later re-uploaded soon after. If you're not familiar with Incredibox, it's a game that was released in 2009, which has you placing different characters down on a board that each play specific instruments. Sprunki is just a mod with new music and new characters. Each character is an instrument. Orange and red are drums, and tan one whistles, and the computer plays the lyrics. But the most important characters we see here are gray, white, blue, and as soon as we place black down on the board, the scene and mood completely changes. Well, before these blank gray characters were looking around and blinking, they're all now staring forward. The clouds have changed, and all eyes are now on you. There's a innocent sprite for black that you can see while going through the gallery, although it specifically states that it's not canon. Every time you attempt to put black in the band, it'll result to the world changing into its darker form. The canon appearance of black was most likely inspired by the Mandela catalog. The sound he plays is a low, bellowing ambient track that sets the mood for the new scene you are now in. The once alive and happy characters are now all either mutated, or in some cases, just the exact same. I'd make a joke that Blue is just a chill guy, but that meme is just gay, so I'm not gonna say it.
Sounds like somebody using the chill guy.
Kid, you're ugly.
Over half the characters now appear to be dead, either barely grasping onto life, or being reanimated by some unseen force. The lyrics have shifted from being cheerful and happy to depressing and disturbed. Despite the lyrics stating that everyone is dead, there are a small handful of characters who have survived or have become horrifically mutated. The once calm synth-lead Yellow has transformed into a strange creature screaming a frantic assortment of keys. An extra bit of lore in the gallery states that he was the one who bit the chunk out of Brown's head. Purple appears untouched at first, but once it vocalizes, it's clear it's been infected. Stretching his jaw out to an inhuman length, it reminds me of that one Exposed Nerve comic. With Vanera, I'm not quite sure. I can't tell if she's been mutated or something has killed her, and whatever has infected her is reanimating her corpse. The small root we see on her head in the peaceful world has grown and overtaken the rest of her body. Finally, there are the survivors. I already brought up Blue. He's completely unfazed, and although his sound has slightly changed, he's no different than he was in the prior world. We could also count the robot, even though it technically never was alive. It doesn't appear to have been damaged, at least not physically, and has just changed its tune. Same goes for the computer. Both of these machines are clearly sentient and can register the situation they are now in. Next is Mr. Tree. While some of you may say this is a stretch, its leaves haven't fallen off the tree, so technically it's not dead. It's just doing blackface. Speaking of faces, it no longer has one, now being replaced by a missing poster with a random girl's face on it. There's no text accompanying it, and it's most likely either another reference to the Mandela catalog or something like the mystery behind Joanna Lopez. And the last two are the two most popular in the fandom, Gray and White. Gray is the only character who appears to be really reacting to the situation he's in appropriately, and it could be that the computer is singing those lyrics for him specifically. And the last important survivor is White, or Wenda. Unlike the other characters who are alive, Wenda appears to be psychotic, with 2 blood splatters on her body and a crazed expression on her face. The barking sound she used to make is now a rapid, bit-crushed mess, and it would appear like she may be the culprit in this situation. I imagine the fandom has shipped them together so much because they're both cats, or cat-like characters, whatever they're supposed to be. Apparently they don't even like each other, so take that, pro shippers. With all this, there is not much actual lore that comes down to this game. The vast majority of it is what we can see in game, with the rest being whatever Nyanko said on Discord when being asked questions. Probably my favorite theory when it comes down to Sprunki lore is that all of this is in Gray's head. The lyrics on the computer alongside him seeming like the only character who's sane and actually reacting to the situation could be explained with him having some sort of psychotic episode. Maybe somebody slipped a bit of blue Valium into his morning coffee. Watch Emesis Blue.
It's eternity in there.
Now that we're done talking about the actual game itself, it's time to talk about the fan games. Now, the original Sprunki only has 2 stages, so this has caused people to create their own, further, more depraved stages in the same vein. While I do like some of the designs and the music, I think some of them kind of miss the mark when it comes to the vague lore of the original game, especially surrounding the singing computer. In stage 3, instead of coming up with new lyrics, it's just distorted lyrics from the first world. It's clear in the first game that the computer is no dummy terminal. It's aware of what's going on and beautifully describes the horror of its new surroundings for the player. Put it simply, the computer in the original Sprunki was well planned out, while in 3 and subsequent mods, it's just an afterthought. Just meant to be creepy with no deeper meaning. It's just a distorted relic of the past. There's also 5 nights at Sprunkies, because we have the technology to do so, I guess. And I like how it's clear that these aren't even redrawn, they just took compressed photos from the game and put it into the world. Moving away from the more dark stuff, there's also mods that are clearly just memes. I like this one where I think it's just a bunch of Brazilian YouTubers, along with Mr. Beast for whatever reason.
You shut the hell up!
My favorite of these are the ones where they actually create new music. A lot of the time they just change up the sprites, so you're not really getting that different of an experience from the original game. And the novelty of poorly edited sprites wears off pretty quickly. And obviously I'm not hating. The first time I did any kind of modding was changing the textures in Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion when I was probably 15 or 16. And these are clearly just kids messing around, so no hate from me. But you can't say this about the next group I need to talk about. The Brainrotters. Now, brain rot is a pretty popular concept on YouTube nowadays, and there's a lot of debate on what counts as brain rot and what doesn't. However, in Sprunki's case, there is a serious amount of brain rot. Now, there are plenty of creators creating genuine fan animations and edits that you can find all across YouTube. But there are also a lot of channels that, at best, are latching onto this week's random popular horror creature with some vapid but inoffensive plot, and at worst, resurrecting Elsagate. For those unaware what Elsagate was, or really still is, back in the mid-2010s, a new form of content started taking over YouTube, specifically for some of the youngest audiences on the site. These YouTubers would take popular cartoon characters like Elsa or Spider-Man and had them act out in a depraved nature. These creators would prey on children's natural curiosity for things like farts, fecal matter, boogers, and worst of all, sexual material. Some people may say it's borderline, but in my opinion, most of the time it was full-on fascistic. A few years after people were complaining about it, YouTube only started taking it down after articles were being written and it was harming their advertisers. But now, almost a decade later, things have just come back to where they once were, and I imagine YouTube won't make a change until another article puts them on blast again, and the YouTubers have to suffer from lower ad rates. Of course, Rocky Raccoon had to jump into all this. Why can't you just draw YouTube, man? Like, why are you on YouTube? Looking at my homepage now, isn't it fantastic? We have like a mermaid character down here, and then, I don't know, this is like a statue, but then we have like actual Pyrosyncopter fat fur. 11 million views. He wakes up, there's piss on the bed, because of course there is. Okay. Why was that the escalation? Why was it like the thigh gripper crush? Like, oh, that's what I have to do.
I'm sorry, what? Can we say slur? Can we enunciate our words? Or maybe someone can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the fact that they gave her cans, which is the first red flag, and then they have her doing that. This is full-on ye olden Elsagate here. Like the pregnant character being inflated, like this simple art style, it's all here. You know, get the fucking hammers. It's just straight up a condom. Who is liking this? What? Why is this well animated? Like usually you can tell with a lot of the other content, people who barely know what's going on, they barely understand color theory, a lot of it is clearly traced very poorly. But the people here are either they're using AI somehow, or they have experience and they're deciding to make this. And then we get, of course, the punchline here is that on his computer he has Rule 34 of her. But then you zoom out and it's a new drawing. So some freak for this one short made 2 drawings. 2, and they're both like so brief that there was no point in making 2. You could have just made the 1. So either there was a miscommunication in the studio, or somebody just really enjoyed drawing this character who was, by the way, designed by a 15-year-old. And what makes this so disturbing is that these people are making this content knowing that it's clearly mostly being watched by people who probably haven't even hit puberty and are using suggestive themes and characters alongside weird fetishes to try and attract these people to their videos. In a way, they're predators, really. And this isn't everyone who makes kind of lame, brain rot, sprunky content. The videos themselves just need to be innocent, and you don't even absolutely have to do this stuff to attract a young audience nowadays. As long as you just upload anything to YouTube Shorts, related to any game, the kids who are looking for that kind of content are most likely going to be recommended your content. The kind of views you can get on YouTube Shorts are insane. You could have a channel with 0 actual videos that you created like last week, and if you upload a video and it somehow gets picked up in the algorithm, you could get like 100k views. There's no need for any of this weird degenerate behavior to try and get views anymore. Not that even if you did need to do that, it would justify it. It's just a case where there is no gain whatsoever to doing this. When this game first got popular, a lot of people were thinking that this was somehow some sort of brain rot game, when in reality, this isn't the case at all. The simplistic art style is one, stylistic, and two, being drawn by a 15-year-old. Just looking at the game, you can tell it was made by someone who enjoys this modern era of ARGs and creepypastas. The gallery specifically mentions Happy Tree Friends as an influence, and other references are clearly dotted across the rest of the game. It's a passion project through and through, and the developer clearly never thought that it would ever get this big. But once the kids' gaming channels got their hands on it, nothing was the same again, and would eventually cause the original developer to get doxxed and harassed all over a goofy little game. Now, I'll keep this part brief because this video is already long enough, and if you want more in-depth details, go watch Cut Cafe's video. I came up with this idea before his video came out, but his is more about the doxing, while mine was more about the game itself. Essentially, YouTubers picked up this game, they started doing this me and Sprunki thing. More YouTubers started doing it. The Brainrot came next, and a bunch of people on the internet were mad at Sprunki and the fandom. It appeared to be one of those things that just cropped out of nowhere, where it seemed like one day nobody was talking about it, and the next day suddenly there's this new crazy game that thousands of people are fawning over, and there's all kinds of fan art that you never heard of before, like some sort of industry plant. So people were online trash talking this game, saying it was lame and it sucked, and everyone who thought it was cool should be thrown to the lions to fight for their life. Typical depressed internet behavior. And because of this, one lone random weirdo was like, "This is my chance to save the West. Under my reign, Sprunki shall be no more." Probably after pausing Meat and Fuck Kingdom, and would proceed to dox Nyanko's real name, multiple photos of him with his family, his address, and claim that he was going to basically end his life by swatting him. I assume this wasn't successful because Nyanko isn't in America. I don't know what country he is in, but I'm thinking that this leaker tried to get him swatted, but because he was in another country, he couldn't get it done. And a reminder, Nyanko is 15. And this is all over a silly horror game that they made that got taken control of by the YouTube content brain hive mind, who made it cringe to a lot of people. Imagine if instead of this, they were spending this time attempting to take down those people who upload Elsagate-esque Sprunki content. I'm not saying it would be okay to dox them or that I would condone it, but it would at least be more understandable and probably worth your time if you're going to report them to the authorities if you wanted to do that. Instead, no, we have to go over the 15-year-old who made a fun project. A lot of people are going to say, oh, the internet nowadays, it's so dark. The thing is that people like this always existed. For example, this thing called PrankNet in the 2000s. It was this website where a bunch of guys would convince people to do really depraved things. Like in one case, they tricked a person working at the front counter of a hotel to drink piss. And if you were to go back to see written accounts before TV ever put up pranks, you'd probably read or hear stories from people about the kinds of dudes who would have done this depraved trolling if they grew up on the internet. Because of this, Nyanko would say that the project of Sprunki is cancelled for the foreseeable future, which is pretty sad. I mean, imagine what something like this would do to your creative spirit. Nyanko is clearly somebody who has an artistic mindset and who can create some pretty cool stuff. But then imagine being a creative person, putting out something that you thought was cool, and then having not only people online just say it's lame and stupid, but your entire family doxxed and your photos leaked alongside voice recordings and somebody threatening to kill you. I think that would be pretty demotivating, and that would be pretty good grounds to lose your passion in art. And this all happening to a 15-year-old as well is extra crushing. That being said, Sprunki is in a unique position when it comes to this kind of stuff. A lot of time, these mods that get turned into Brainrot are derivative off of other properties. All the characters here are original. Obviously, it's a mod of a pre-existing game, but the characters and the music itself are all original. In my opinion, Nyanko should trademark these characters and issue takedown notices on any Sprunki Brainrot that has sexual themes. You know, saving Gen Alpha one takedown at a time. I don't think anyone would really have a problem with Nyanko taking down these videos, except for the people who are making the videos themselves. Practically everyone with a functioning brain hates Elsagate, and if they could, they'd probably do more to the creators than just take down their videos. I don't know if I have to elaborate further. But that's where I'm going to end the video off. Sprunki is a pretty cool mod with a good concept and execution, which has unfortunately fallen victim to the depravity of the internet. I hope Nyanko continues the project, but considering what he's been through, it's safe to say that it might be a while until we see something again.
I look like a lizard, man.